Do you have a spiritual practice? Do you have something that you routinely do, perhaps multiple times a week, to feel connected to yourself, to the universe, to perhaps do inner work to evolve and clear and let go of things and invite new ways of being? I've had one for a very long time. I've been in the energy healing field for 35 years. And I started my spiritual practice work well before then. And so there are times when I think, oh, is this all there is? Isn't there something that I can add to this practice to perk it up, to make it more viable for me today? And I also find that adding some new tools to my practice helps me become clearer about what I can do and how I can shift when something isn't going the way it feels right to me to be happening. I think tools are delicious. When you have tools, you know that you have resources to help you do whatever you need to do. And I like having at my fingertips very powerful tools. In some ways, it would be like going into a hardware store and only buying hand tools versus power tools. I want the power, baby. So what's going on with your tools? Could you use some different ways of thinking about your spiritual practice? I'm Jill Lee, founder and director of the Energy Healing Institute, and I'm here to talk today about how you can feed your spiritual practice. If you'd like to learn more about what EHI has to offer, we have courses for self-healing. We have lots of free content, and we have practitioner programs for people who want to move into the healing arts or integrate energy healing into their client practice. And of course, I consult with practitioners on how to grow their businesses into six-figure businesses because honestly, I think practitioners deserve to thrive. So that's what you'll find at energyhealinginstitute.org. Let's talk a little bit about spiritual practice. You know, there are some resources and tools that can really stand the test of time as you move forward in your life. One of the things that I think is really important is learning how to work very concretely and specifically with intention. Lots of people can say, I want to feel better. Oh, that's awesome. But what does that mean? And how do you anchor into thinking about how to get there? I teach practitioners, I teach my clients, I use intentions myself for my own personal practice. But what I often find is that people don't know how to set an actual intention. They can create a wish list. They can write 5-page documents. You can't hold all that energy. So what an intention does is it focalizes energy towards what it is you want to create. So if you know how to write a good intention, how to create a good intention, then your spiritual practice resonates in a beautiful way around that work. And of course, intentions can be evolved. So when you have a good foundation in creating intentions, you got tools and resources you can use for the rest of your life. Another thing that's really useful, sometimes people want to make some sort of a change. Let's say, I want to be less judgmental. Okay, great. And then they go about their day and their life, and they don't notice when they're being judgmental. They just aren't tuned into that because they're too busy doing the things of their day-to-day experience. So they don't notice when they say, oh, that waitress took too long to bring our sandwiches, or my boss is just incompetent. Even if those words don't come out of your mouth, if the thoughts are there, you're in judgment, right? Now, look, we're all in judgment all the time. So it's not about not being judgmental. It's not about something else you want to solve. I don't want to be anxious. Well, awesome to not want to be anxious. But man, if you're walking down a dark alley at 11 o'clock at night and there are 6 people walking towards you with sticks and you're not anxious, you might be making a very large mistake, right? So all emotions are valid. It's context. So if you have a relationship with the part of you that can observe and notify, I call it inviting a ping, then you have a mechanism for becoming more conscious of when you are doing the thing that you would like to evolve. And that allows you to do resets, and it allows you to be informed and guided in the clearing work that you'll later do in your practice. Here's another one. Years ago, I had a client who came into my practice and he had some very significant physical issues. He also had a significant trauma background. And he had trouble discerning what was emotional and what was physical pain. And I realized in creating a set of tools for him around this process that he's not the only one who has this challenge. And he's not the only one who has made the connection that at times his emotional pain exacerbates his physical pain. And that if he can separate the two, he can work more effectively on both. I found this to be a really incredible resource and something that I turn to over and over and over again, both with clients and with myself. For when something is happening with me that has a physical correlation, I always know my emotions are in the mix. And when I can separate the two and work with them individually, I get a much better and much more efficient result. Here's another one. This is a big one. Have you ever been in a situation where you just blew it? You overreacted, you said things you didn't mean to say or shouldn't have said, you did something that was not appropriate? If you haven't, you're a better person than me. Every one of us has experiences where afterwards we're kind of cringy. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I can't believe I said that. But perhaps it's not appropriate to go back to that situation and try and fix it. You may have burned a bridge. It may be a situation where you're never going to see that person again, but you know you weren't your best self. There's a really fabulous process where you can create a do-over within yourself and reorganize an experience energetically so that you do better and so that your energy moves out of that pattern and into something else. I love that skill. Here's another one. Sometimes you can't say what you want to say because it's either going to fall on deaf ears, it's going to be too volatile, and it's going to create too much drama and conflict, and it's just not worth it. Yet, if you don't say it, you're left holding the bag. What would happen if you had a really powerful tool in your toolkit where you could say what needs to be said, no holds barred, and move through the kinds of difficulties that leave us feeling stuck, like the other person got away with something when in fact they shouldn't? There's a really cool tool that you can learn and use to have those interactions without ever making the mistake of saying it out loud to a person who will not receive it. And then lastly, I find that sometimes it's too easy to be in my practice and not do the integration work after the practice to really allow things to land, the changes, the shifts, the awarenesses to become integrated into who I am. That's a really important part of any spiritual practice. And yet, too often, we jump off the mat, we jump off the cushion, we get out of our meditation, and we pour a cup of coffee and we move on with our day. Integrating evolution is a really important piece of every spiritual practice. So, if any of this ideas sounds meaningful to you, then I would suggest that you tootle over to energyhealinginstitute.org and take a look at the course, Feeding Your Spiritual Practice. It has a delicious buffet of resources. I've just described them to you. And I set it up as a menu, 2 appetizers, 2 entrees, 2 desserts. And you can pick and choose what you want to work with at any given time. So the course is there, and you might decide creating a do-over is where I need to be right now. And so I'm going to study that. I'm going to integrate that into my practice. I'll go back and pick up the other things later. It'll be there waiting. So if feeding your spiritual practice is something that you're interested in, and you decide you want to buy the course, please use the coupon Feeding Today, and you can get a 10% discount on the course.